All right, everyone. So this is Rob Furlong. He's something of a legend in the long range and extreme long range shooting space. We're at his facility in Youngstown, which is in Alberta, Canada. And we just got done hosting King of 2 Mile. So Rob, I've been asking all of your competitors all day a few questions, and I want to ask you the same questions. But first, can you explain what King of 2 Mile is?
Yeah, so King of 2 Mile originated in the United States. We got a lot of guys in, we'll say, the last 20 years showcasing themselves as what we would consider extreme long-range shooter. Extreme long-range, 2,000 meters plus, guys doing their videos, and there's claims of long shots. And then we had a couple of individuals in the United States say, hey, why don't we just put a competition together that's sanctioned with set rules where everybody can come compete for not only just a sanctioned match, but also for a title, which is known as the King of the 2 Miles. And it's caught on. We've got a King of 2 Mile not only in Canada now, we have it in France. Unfortunately, there used to be one in the Ukraine, but they're a little busy over there right now, so that one's on hold. We have one in South America, and I think that's about it, but I know there's a couple of other countries that are looking at establishing themselves right now. Once you basically start shooting the King of 2 Mile, you get globally ranked. So all match directors send in the scores of their competitors, and then the head guys in the United States take in all those names, all those scores, and you'll start to see they start to form kind of a history as an ELR shooter in sanctioned matches. So if you're saying, I'm in the top 100 shooters in the world, you can literally refer to that chart of shooters through the King of 2 Mile.
This is really just an international competition that takes place all around the world then, huh?
It is, and you know this, Josh, you're in the firearms industry. This is a small industry. Everybody knows everybody. What the King of 2 Mile did was kind of something similar. It took the top ELR shooters from around the world and brought them together so that there's almost a baseline for what is ELR and how is accuracy measured. So during the competition, we follow those set rules no matter what country you're in, depending on certain limitations to, like in Canada, caliber restrictions and so forth. But we can say that we all competed under the same rules and the same kind of outline, so that if there's a claim that this shooter is a top shooter in Canada or top shooter in the United States, he can be gauged off of that depending on King of 2 Mile he's competing in.
So I think I learned a fun fact today, actually. You can correct me if I'm wrong. You said there's never been a repeat champion of King of 2 Mile? Is that like
Not here in Canada.
Okay.
So we've only been doing this since 2021, I believe. And so far in Canada, we've never had a repeat champion. We've had guys that have landed, first place one year, maybe third place a second year. So I always tell the participants, show up, because you don't know what's going to happen. The amazing thing about shooting is there's factors so far out of your control, i.e. wind and mirage, that you may have had the luck of the draw, be first or second to shoot early in the morning when those environmental factors aren't a big consideration. And then you could also be unfortunate and get the draw around 1:30, 2 o'clock when those conditions are extremely bad, and that'll lower your chances of having a higher score. So, you won one year doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do well the following year. There's a lot of chance, we'll say, in there too as well. It's skill, but luck of the draw too does determine.
It's all a good time
Yeah.
in the end. Everyone had a blast out here from what I saw. I got to ask you the same questions that I asked all the competitors here, and I think it might be a little different on your end because with the competitors, those guys all have full-time jobs. Some of them were in the oil industry. Some of those guys were working in finance. I think a couple of those guys, one of them had a side project as a gunsmith. But for you, this is your full-time job. So I think we're going to get a slightly different answer out of you. What was your gateway into the long-range world?
Definitely a little different. And yeah, you're right. There's guys from all walks of life. How I got into this, I mean, I grew up around firearms. My dad was a federal fisheries officer. We hunted. I was a typical kid growing up in Outport, Newfoundland with BB guns and 22s and shotguns and so forth. And, in 1997, I joined the Canadian Armed Forces. Really fortunate to join the ranks of 3 PPCLI based out of Edmonton, Alberta.
What is for our American viewers? What does that mean? What is PPCLI?
So it is a light infantry battalion. It's an airborne battalion. So we're all jumpers. It stands for Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. It's a really historic unit going back to World Wars, and it's probably, my humble opinion, one of the best units in Canada. But of course, I'm going to say that. While I was in there, I was very fortunate to not only serve on the battalion rifle team, but also find myself OJ team for the snipers. During my time in there, I met a gentleman by the name of Graham Ragsdale. Rags is actually one of our instructors here at the school now. He mentored me through my first year of on-the-job training, and then I completed my sniper course in 2001. Actually, during my course was September 11th, and of course, that kind of catapulted Canada into joining that war effort. During that time frame, we were deployed to Afghanistan and supported that mission. We had some really good success in Afghanistan. That kind of got me into the whole, I guess, long-range shooting. It was a professional career as a sniper. When I left the military, wanting to carry that on, the school was always in the back of my mind. And in 2012, after a policing career, I started school with a mindset around, offering military law enforcement training, civilian training. And that's kind of how the company, Rob Furlong's Marksmanship Academy, became to be. And, it was such a great fit because I love shooting. I'm very passionate about shooting. Shooting is not only just a hobby for me, although it is my hobby and my career all kind of tied into one. It's, I'm the guy that goes home and reads and watches videos and is looking at the next best thing coming out from the manufacturers. I guess, I hate saying that word nerd, but I would consider myself like a shooting nerd. I love shooting and everything about it, and I have a lot of respect for the community and the manufacturers that are really trying to advance long-range shooting. Some of our ballistic software companies, we got some really good friends at Applied Ballistics who help push us and educate us and make sure we're in the forefront of the ELR side of things. So that's kind of how I got into the whole long-range shooting thing, and it's just a daily thing for me. I think I'll never stop learning. I don't think you get to a point with shooting where it's like, all right, I've mastered this and I'm going to move on to the next thing. It's a great sport and is extremely addictive for anybody out there thinking about getting into it.
I think when it comes to mastery and long-range shooting, out of all the people I've met, I think you're probably the closest thing to someone I would consider like a master of this craft. We could probably put myself or CJ down behind one of your rifles, and I bet with you spotting, you'd get us on target within 3 to 5 rounds. So I would like to just throw that out there that this man is an incredible instructor. But what I want to ask next is, was there a specific moment that you can remember when you were shooting that you were like, this is the only way that I want to shoot? This is what I want to master. And if there was, what caliber were you shooting?
22.
You were shooting a 22.
Yep. I was about 16 years old. Like I had mentioned previously, there's times where, growing up, I remember shooting pellet guns and 22s and so forth. But this one day, myself and a friend of mine, Sean, who later joined the service too as well, we're up, it's winter months, we're up on just a little rock face overlooking a small frozen body of water, and there was a twig sticking out of the ice. And we're thinking, all right, who can hit this? So Sean takes a couple of shots. He's real close. And I take a shot, and it was my very first shot. And I snapped that twig that was sticking out of the ice, and it's kind of like, whoa, you're so excited. But there was a feeling in there, it's like, wow, it excites you. And anybody who's competed at a professional level will have those times as they've grown up in their sport that things stand out. That was one of them where, wow, put a piece of steel through a steel tube onto a target that I'm placing in center of my crosshair. Total fluke, zero skill, and was just one of those odd moments in life that something worked out. I could have shot at it 100 more times and never hit it. But it was just that moment that really got me into precision. It was always about shooting pellets at cans and, so forth. But looking through a scoped optic with a set of plain duplex crosshairs, placing onto target, pressing that trigger and impacting exactly where you're pointing, there's something extremely gratifying about that, I don't 100% know the psychological side around that or what's appeasing, but it's addictive. And then we did that at 25 meters. Now I want to shoot 2,500. I want to shoot 3,500, 4,500. And the thing about long range shooting is, how far can I push this caliber? How far can I push myself? The ballistic software, everything. Like, we're always trying to push the boundaries on capabilities. And with that becomes experience. So now when you look back and say, man, I remember when I first started with my 308, I just wanted to hit 800 meters. And then it was like, can you imagine if I shot 1,000? In Canada, that being a kilometer, then a mile. Then, can you imagine if I hit 2,000? So then we start getting that hunger of wanting to shoot further. Now, to do that, you had to start to study ballistics. You have to start to use ballistic software. You have to start to invest in your equipment. A 308 isn't going to get you all the way to 2 miles, but it is going to be the building of the foundational skills using your 308 to make you a great long-range shooter. I always say to people, if you want to be a good shooter, have a real strong foundation on fundamental skills. Everybody can, I shouldn't say everyone, motivated people can go out and purchase certain equipment that will get them out to 1,000 meters quicker than, people who are doing the fundamental way. The thing is, if they're basing all their success on an electronic devices will fail at some point. If you have fundamental skills to fall back on, that failure won't hold you back from being successful, at that, say, 1,000 meter range. And that's one of the things that we really promote at school on our level 1 course is a real strong foundation on fundamental skills.
Wow. I don't know how to respond to that. That was really good. We could cut this part out when we're looking at it where I'm laughing. That was a really good answer. So the next question, I'm going to just scooch over to the next question. If you've dealt with shooters of all skill levels, you've got one of the premier marksmanship, like probably the premier marksmanship academy in Canada, probably one of the best ones in North America. You've probably dealt with people who have never fired a firearm before at all the way up to, I know for a fact you've probably worked with tons of absolute professional shooters, some of the best in the world. If someone is looking at getting into this space for the very first time, but they're feeling super intimidated, because I mean, we looked at probably 4 or 5 firearms today, and all of them were 10, 11, 12,000 US dollars. Just at the entry level is what some people are going to see when they're looking at this. Like, I need to spend $12,000 to get into long range shooting. What would you say to those people to make them feel a little less intimidated? And if you were to point them in a path to get on this road, what would you say to those people?
I think if you look at any equipment-heavy sport that's out there, and I'll give it a little bit more of an extreme example, but let's say race car driving. Nobody is going to go out and buy a NASCAR for their first race car. You're going to start a younger person off in go-karts. And this is what I'm going to compare. You fit in a firearm, an optic, and bipod, and just some basic equipment into a budget, and then research the firearm that fits within your budget. And when I say firearm, your weapon system, the whole package. And a caveat to that, spend most of your budget, if not all of it, on the optic. Then get a quality firearm to accompany that quality optic. Now, everything is budget-based. Set your budget first, then move into whatever that optic is, whatever that firearm is, the bipod, and then get out to the range. One of the calibers that I still promote, and there's going to be a massive amount of conversation probably over the next comment that I'm going to make, but I encourage it because it's what I continuously see on the course. I think your 308 is your best bang for the buck for new shooters to start out on. If you want to be a great long range shooter, just like I said, have strong fundamental skills.
308 is a good way to
308 start. Is an amazing way to start because 308 is not a good long range caliber. It is a short, fat, inefficient projectile that in flight is greatly affected by the changes of the environment that it's passing through. Why does that make you a better shooter? Because you had to pay attention to the environmental factors. If I have you shooting at 600 meters and you're shooting a .338 Lapua Magnum, you don't care what the environmental factors are because they have no effect on a round that is doing 2,850 feet per second with a 300 grain projectile at 600 meters. You're talking about a trajectory or a culmination point of probably 18 to 24 inches. Its time of flight is so short, there's so much energy being carried to the target that wind is going to have very little effect on that projectile. So people lose sight of having to concentrate on mirage, concentrate on wind changes, wind direction, and so forth. But yet my 308 shooter, he's very aware of that. And he knows that if he presses and releases that trigger in a left to right wind, when he's set for a right to left wind, he's going to miss. So if he's aware of that, it makes him a great shooter. And these are a reason why most of our school guns are based in 308. We really try to push that caliber. For learning, yes, and there's a cost aspect to that too, as well, as you know. I can get into a more exotic caliber. There's some amazing short action calibers. You got 6 millimeters, 6.5s, there's 6.8s. We got 7 millimeters that are out there now. They're starting to become popular. There's so many great exotic calibers. But with that, high performance becomes a a cost consideration because we're burning our barrels out quicker. I could say to you, Josh, run out, get yourself a 6.5 Creedmoor. Let's say you got 2,000 rounds out of that barrel. I can put you into a 308, and with proper care and maintenance, and what I mean by care is don't overheat your barrel. Shouldn't overheat your barrel with any caliber, but with proper care and maintenance with a 308, with a quality barrel, you're probably going to get close to 10,000 rounds out of that. That's a lot of training.
And the cost of the round itself.
Yeah, comparative, right? We'll say I wouldn't want to go any lower than 308 for starting to get into the ELR thing. Like I love 5.56, or 2.23. Real cheap guys love the 22 thing and stuff. And I think those are different sports. But if you want to get into the long range game, I think that first thing we're trying to chase as people just getting in, 500 meters, 600, 800, 1,000. The 308 is going to be your caliber. I think that you want to seek out high quality, very consistent 308 ammo are available everywhere. And a lot of the match grade ammunition we're seeing from manufacturers have low extreme spreads and SDs, which are going to be a huge help to your shooter because it's going to be able to keep small group sizes on target at range, and it keeps down that frustration. For our shooters who haven't heard of extreme spread, I really encourage you to Google that and see what we're talking about with extreme spread, because having a little bit, even as a new shooter, of extreme spread will help you not be frustrated when you're at the range on your own. And so I guess that's a very long-winded answer again, but that's the caliber I would recommend for shooters looking to get into long-range shooting.
Now, would you recommend doing an AR-10 out of the gate for some of our American viewers who can access to those, or would you say dead on, go for the bolt gun straight away?
It's a tool. What are you trying to achieve? Because there are mission-specific things that you want to do. As a sniper, we both serve. We just didn't take one weapon system with us. It was mission-specific. So I would say to our shooters is, what are you trying to do? What fits in your budget, and what is your wheelhouse? If you're a gas gun guy and you're invested in a gas gun, if you currently own an AR-10 and now you want to get into long-range shooting, are you better off investing in higher custom components to get into it? I say yes. Go out, get some higher quality barrels, or whatever components are going to give you higher accuracy for that weapon system. If you don't own anything, ask yourself, do I want to get into the gas gun side or the bolt action side? Either which, I want to see those people getting out and getting in the community, because once you start shooting, you're going to realize what direction you want to go, because there are going to be competitions for the gas side, there's going to be competitions for the bolt side, and you'll find yourself on one side of the community or the other. The one thing that you will have on both sides are amazing people. The shooting community is just full of amazing people who want to grow the sport, they want to share their knowledge, and they'll help you through. When you can get advice from me, but you can go out to a range and sit there all day long, probably talk to 20, 30 different people. They're all going to give you their opinion, and from that you're going to garner what you need and make your decision. But yeah.
So we've done a lot of USPSA events, and this is the first long-range competition we've ever come to. And I would say this competition had one thing in common with all of those pistol matches and 3-gun matches that we've gone to, and that's that the shooters are all amazing people that want to help. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the same if it is in the other spots, but once you start getting up and like, okay, now you're a ranking competitor, it might not be so helpful because now you're the competition. But if you're Nick, the new guy rocking up at a competition, I've never seen another competitor snub a new shooter that is looking for advice or help.
I've been doing this a long while, and I have never seen anybody at a shooting competition not willing to give few minutes out of their day to help out the guy. But I've also seen some of the top tier shooters in Canada and United States take a prize rifle off the table and give a new shooter, or give somebody who showed up, we'll say an entry level long range gun, and be like, here man, hopefully this helps you out. So that's the type of people we're talking about in this community. So really good people.
All right, so next question. I've got to ask this. I've asked it to everyone. I already know what your answer is because we've had this discussion before in the past, probably last year. MOA or MRAD, and why?
I'm going to tell you a little story because I want to give context and background, of course, to my question. So when I went through sniper course, I had the inertial scope, which cutting edge in the 70s, because this is 2001 I'm going through. It had a mil radiant reticle in there with MOA turrets. So I learned both forms of angular measurement going through sniper school, which was a huge asset to me, because having a strong understanding of both has definitely helped me in the career that I'm in now. I'm going to give the edge to mills for ease of use. And if you had asked me, what should I buy, I would tell you the exact same thing. If you're just kicking off, jump into mills. If you've never used in either form of angular measurement, mills is just extremely user-friendly. If you are currently a shooter and you are fond of MOA, do it. It's the same measurement. You're just looking at a different side of the ruler than the other guy. There's no real good, bad. It's
the way that I've always thought of it is if your brain works in fractions, use MOA. If your brain works in decimals, use mils.
It's funny because in the class, I always use the example, I'll say to my students, you get 20, 24 students in class, show me what 35 centimeters look like. And I'll have the students show me in their hands. And I say, okay, without moving your hands, look around the classroom. And people will look around, and there's all kinds of variation. The younger students are bang on. My older guys who, are probably in their 60s, 70s, 80s, there'll be a lot of variation. As soon as I go, show me what 12 inches look like, the older guys are like, bang on. We were so used to using inches and stuff back when the old school curriculum was around. Inches was what we use. Now the younger kids are using centimeters, so they're more comfortable with mils. A lot of it's personal preference, honestly. And they both do the same thing. When you start getting to extreme range, when you start shooting 4, 5, 6, 7 kilometers, you will have an edge with MOA being a smaller form of adjustment. Most people aren't even capable of that level of accuracy, so I don't
think most rounds are capable of that, are they? Is it 4, 5, 6? That's far.
There's a handful of calibers out there you're going to be using. I'll toss one out there. There's many, but if you're starting to sink those type of ranges, you're into that 416 type of.
What's 416?
It's a neck down 50 cal B&G, which I know you're extremely familiar with. It's a neck down 50 cal to a 416 round. So heavy projectile, high BC, high muzzle velocity, which is going to help you at long range. You have other calibers. You got the 375 Shy-Tac, the 375 Enabler. Those are pretty popular. The 33XCs, 37XCs. I know I'm missing some of the ones that are out there, boys, but
they'll let you know down in the comments.
And that's okay. I love comments. If everybody thought the same way in this industry, we wouldn't be very far. It's all the different opinions on things is the reason why everything is advancing so fast. So I enjoy the debate and the conversation in the community. But that's the kind of distances you would have to consider if you were saying, I want the edge of MOA over mil radians. I don't think that would really come into play until you start talking about some of the extreme ranges.
Awesome. Well, Rob, I appreciate taking the time to talk to us. Where can they find you?
Yeah, if you guys want further information on the Marksmanship Academy, you guys can visit www.rfma.ca. Got any questions, email us or give us a call.
And he does take American students up here in Canada, so check him out.